The biggest poison in us is regret.
We only have one life.
Life is there to be lived to the fullest.
You only have one life. Use it well.
I'm excited for y'all to be back. I'm excited for the spring semester to start. The cold weather is getting to me a little bit, but I got short sleeves. I'm inside. I'm feeling good, you know what I mean? But welcome back. You know, me and Millie, this is my wife, Millie, right here. We are excited for the spring semester for so many different reasons. And there's a time, you know, when you get to kick off something brand new. And then also, you know, we got new things coming, like basketball starting up. My wife is a big basketball fan, so she's excited for that. But also, you know, it's the new year, you know, and with the new year comes a lot of new things. And I want to ask you all a question, even as we dive in, is this question right here. Have you ever heard of this term, New Year, New You? New Year, New You. It's a term that's connected to like New Year's resolutions, like, hey, this year I'm going to do it right. This year I'm going to clean it up, right? And we all probably have different New Year's resolutions or different things that we want to do differently or better, you know, coming into this new year. You know, some of us may want to lose a little bit of weight, you know, might want to trim up a little bit. I feel like this has been on my list for a little while now. I'm like, man, I need to trim up, you know, get some running in, get some cardio. Maybe we want to eat healthy. You know what I mean? Maybe you want to, you know, get some greenery in the diet. You know what I mean? Maybe you know, we need to get in the weight room. You know, you're like, hey, I need to kind of bulk up. You know, ladies, I want to tone up a little bit. You know, maybe that's your New Year's resolution. Or maybe you're just like, yo, this year I'm trying to trim. You know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to, you know, get the outfit. I'm trying to stunt. I'm trying to look good. You know, maybe that's your New Year's resolution. Or maybe you're like, hey, this is the year to boss up. You know what I mean? Like, I'm about to take care of my business. I'm about to get my classes right. Like, I'm about to have my finances straight. I'm going to pay my tuition on time. You know, you're like, I'm about to boss up this year. You know, well, hey, I want to take some time for y'all to discuss with each other. What's your New Year's resolution? Or what's the resolution that you have going into 2022? Discuss that with the people around you. Brings back. You know, the crazy thing about New Year's resolutions is I feel like oftentimes for me, I make the same resolution like every year, you know? It's like, man, I'm gonna lose weight this year, and I'm gonna eat right, you know, this year. And it's crazy because, you know, as time goes on, I look back and I'm like, man, I feel like I made the same resolution over and over and over again. You know, you get multiple shots at it. But it's also crazy because in life, there are a bunch of things that we only get, you know, one shot at as well. You know, you think about, man, for some of us who probably play sports in high school and stuff like that. Literally, when the last buzzer goes off, the last whistle blows, that's the end. That's it. There's no more shots, you know, at high school sports. You think about even relationships. You know, some of us probably, you know, thinking about shooting on one shot, you know, with somebody in the room, maybe. I don't know. Man, you only get one shot, you know, and shooting a shot, you know, in a relationship, you know what I mean? Even, you know, thinking about college, you know, some of us are starting to realize this as we come to Kansas State, you know, that, man, I only really get one shot at college. You know, as much fun as it is, as much as I'm enjoying it, as much as I'm learning, you know, I only get one shot at college. But it kind of continues on even after that, right? You know, because you only really get married one time, hopefully, you know? And then you have one shot, you know, at being a parent. Then you have one shot, you know, at kind of being a grandparent. You have one shot at having the right job, and one shot at being at the right school, at the right place, at the right time, buying the right things. You know, if you think about it, and as time goes on, there's a reality that in life, we really only have one shot. One shot. We only have one life overall. You know, you think about the fact that we only have one life, you know, and it creates a whole bunch of different feelings and emotions. But I think one of the emotions that it's created is that we really want to invest it well. You know, you think about that one life, and there's a lot of different interesting statistics about it. One of the things that's interesting about it is the average of 71 years is 2,915 days. In case you were curious, that's 621,000 hours in the average lifetime, okay? Here's a little chart of how we spend our lives. This is kind of how we spend our lives on a year-to-year basis. And so you kind of see we spend 28 years sleeping, 10 years working, 9 years playing watching TV, playing video games, 6 years doing chores. That's depressing, right? You know, and then it's also interesting if you kind of break it down, some of the interesting things that come out if you look at how we actually spend our lives. One life, we actually spend 39 days brushing our teeth. That's insane. 39 days brushing your teeth. You didn't have basketball, you could look at the person next to you and see if they skipped a day, right? You know, we spend 240 days using the bathroom. Just using the bathroom. Isn't that nuts? Yeah, it's kind of disgusting when you think about it. We spend 350 days getting dressed. 350 days just putting on clothes and taking them off. You know? You know, we spend, how about this? Any guesses how much time we spend just watching sports as a parent? We spend 2.5 years of our life watching sports. How about this one? How much time do you think we spend on our phone? We spend 11 years. Out of 71, we spend 11 years on our phone. It's crazy. You know, but all of these stats are obviously interesting in so many ways, but it also lends a good question. You know, when it comes down to that one life, that one shot that we have at the 71 years, you know, the 225,000 days that we have on this earth, you know, how do we spend that one life? How should we spend that one life? What do you do? How do you use it? You know, different people have different philosophies on life, right? So some people are like, hey, YOLO, like whatever, you know what I mean? Go for it. You only have one to live once, you might as well just go for it. You know what I mean? Some of us are like, hey, take it easy, you know? Like, just chill out. You know, you only have one life, take it easy. Some of us are like, hey, big count, like you gotta take it serious. You know, they got this super serious face all the time, right? You know, they can't take anything lightly. You know, and while there's probably some truth in all of these, you know, I think deep down we know that this ultimately, you know, isn't the truth. That we need something different, you know, if we're going to take advantage of this one life. How should you spend your one life? You know, and I want to give us a thought on how we should spend our one life. You know, the reality is that we have one life and we have two options. We can either waste it or we can invest it. You know, we can waste it in so many different ways. You know, we can waste our life and just chasing as much fun and as pleasure as we possibly can, right? And we can just do that our entire life. At the end of our life, it really is a waste. You know, or we can waste our lives, you know, chasing our own goals, our own dreams, our own ambitions with complete disregard for what God has to say about my life. I mean, you would get a lot, you might make a lot of money, but at the end, it would be a waste. We can also waste our lives by kind of playing half in, half out with God, right? Where it's like, man, I know I want a relationship with Christ. I know, man, I love God. I want to have a relationship with Him, but we never really go in. We never really commit to growing spiritually. Man, at the end of the day, the Bible says, man, at that point, you wasted your life. But I want to give us another picture of how we can really invest our life. You know, I want to give us a picture of how we can really invest our life. And I think, man, I'm so excited even for this semester and as far as to dive in on this topic of one life and how can we invest it. And I'm excited a lot for us, but man, we're kicking off a series this semester where we're going to unpack different aspects of one life and how we can really invest this one life. If you're at SMC, you know that one life is our theme at SMC. If you weren't at SMC, that's okay. This series is just for you, right where you're at. It's going to meet you right where you're at and help you take steps forward in your relationship with God. You see, we're going to talk about the Word with Jacob Sims. Prayer is coming down the road. Then we're going to take a little break and do a little Valentine's surf, you know, have a little love there. You know what I mean? We're going to have a relationships panel, which would be awesome. We're going to have holiness. We're going to talk about what holiness is and how we can have our one life that's to live in holiness. We're going to talk about emotional intelligence. And then we're going to talk about, man, with our one life, how can we make decisions, you know, that really honor God? You know, you think about one life and it really is just a series of decisions. And I'm excited to hear from these speakers and what we have coming down the line. But when it comes to this idea of one life and investing in, you know, one of the most powerful ways that we can invest our life, you know, the one life that we have, the 71 years, and one of the most powerful ways that we can invest our one life is to commit to spiritual growth. On your handout is the first blank. To commit to spiritual growth. It comes down to this. The most tangible way to invest your life is to commit to spiritual growth. And I know some of us are at different spots with this. Some of us are considering committing to spiritual growth. Some of us are like, hey, I'm excited, I'm all in, right? Some of us may be hearing this for the first time, but man, the best way for you to invest your life is to commit to spiritual growth. And here's why you should invest it. Here's why you should commit to spiritual growth. The first reason is this, is that you need to invest it because our time is short. Our time is short. The problem for us in college is it doesn't feel like it's short, right? You know, it feels like we have a whole life ahead of us. You know, we're like, hey, I got all this time down the road. If I want to do everything that I dream and want to accomplish down the road, down there, one day. But the reality is, if you think about it, we don't have as much time as we think. Growing spiritually, yeah, I do it one day, but when we really don't have one day, we have so little time. And we need to spend our time wisely and invest it. James 4:13-14 speaks to this reality. It says this, now listen to you who say, today or tomorrow, we will go to this or that city, spend a year there, carry on business, and make money. And I think that's a lot of us, right? And I think that's me, you know, even when I stepped into college, I was like, hey, one day, you know, I'll get it figured out. One day, you know, I'll grow spiritually. One day I'll actually get serious about this God thing. But then look what it says there at the end. Why? You don't even know what'll happen tomorrow. What is your life? You're a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. You know, and I think about that, it's like a mist. You know, it's kind of cold outside, right? You know, we're walking outside and we're kind of blowing smoke, you know, once we take our masks off. You know, that's kind of what James is talking about there. Our life is literally like that. It's just a mist. It's here one day, it's gone tomorrow. Our life here is really short. We really don't have as much time as we think. And we fall into this trap in everyday life, right? You know, like we're waking up in the morning, we're like, hey, I'm gonna just hit the snooze button, like, yo, I got time. You know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna just snooze a little bit, and what always happens? Like, you wake up like 5 minutes before class, and you're like throwing on your pants, you know, so you're running out the door. You know, it happens for us even in Christmas shopping, right? You know, we're like, oh man, Christmas is way down there. Like, yo, I got time, right? I got time, like. And then every single Christmas at Walmart, the day before Christmas is literally the most craziest event ever. Like literally, I think I got punched yesterday, the last time I was there. You know, people jumping over themselves trying to get presents because they ran out of time. You know, you think about, man, even a due date for like an assignment. You get an assignment that's like 2 weeks out, and you're like, hey, I got time. And what always happens? You get right up into it, and you spend it all night studying because you ran out of time. You know, and I think in a similar way, we don't have as much time as we think. You know, even though we're in college, even though we're young, we don't have as much time as we think. One philosopher who actually studies our psychology and this idea of mindfulness, I disagree with a lot of stuff he says, but I agree with this. He says the trouble is you think you have time. He says one of the biggest problems that we have is that we think we have time. When in reality, we don't have as much time as we think. I think it's so true. Jesus confronts this head on when he tells a story about a man who went on a journey and he worked really hard. But man, at the end of it, he says, hey, I think I'm good. I got time, right? And so he says, the man in the story says this. He says, and I'll say to myself, you'll have plenty of grain laid up for many years. Take life easy, eat, drink, and be merry, right? He says, hey, I got time. I'm just gonna kick back and relax for right now. But Jesus then comes in and confronts this head on. It's kind of crazy. He says this, but God said to him, you fool, this very night your life will be demanded from you. Then who will give what you prepare for yourself? He says, you fool. Literally, you're an idiot, is what he's saying. It's like, man, you don't understand how little time you have. And I think for us, man, if Jesus was communicating to us, he would tell us, hey, you don't have as much time as you think. We need to invest. Almost that long. It's all good. We need to invest well in our relationship with God. So first off, our time is short. The second is this, is that we want a good return. Right? We want a good return. The second reason I need to commit to growing spiritually is I want a good return. You You know, we all want a good return, right? You know, nobody wants to go to a restaurant, like pay all this money for a meal, the food comes out and it's absolutely garbage, right? You know, nobody wants that. You want a good return on whatever your investment is, if your money or your time. In the same way, you know, a lot of us, we want a good return spiritually. You know, we want to become the men or women that God wants us to be. And if you commit yourself now to growing spiritually, you will see a good return. The way that God describes committing yourself to growing spiritually in Hebrews 12 is this. He says, discipline. He says, no discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful. Later on, however, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who have been trained by it. He says, if you discipline yourself, if you commit to growing spiritually, it'll be painful at the time, but later on, it'll produce a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who have been trained by it. You know, and it is painful. You know, committing to growing spiritually, there are some things that you have to say no to. There's some new things that you have to say yes to. And that can really be a painful process to say, hey, I'm going all in, you know, to growing spiritually this semester, to becoming the man or woman that God has for me to be. But God promises, hey, if you do, it's going to produce something in your life that you'll really like. It'll produce righteousness and peace for those who have been trained by it. And speaking of producing, I'm going to put up on the screen a few guys that have produced. I myself am an athlete, and I like athletics. I like watching sports and stuff like that. And so here's a few guys who have produced. Up on the top left is Manny Pacquiao. Some of y'all might have heard of him. Oscar De La Hoya is in the top middle. On the top right, that's Iron Mike Tyson. I'm a big fan. And on the bottom left is Anderson Silva, George St. Pierre, and then Tito Ortiz. And you guys, some of you all may have heard of these different people at different times, maybe one or a few or a couple. But I guarantee you, none of you all have heard of this guy. This guy's name is Freddie Roach. Okay? Freddie Roach is arguably, not arguably, he is the greatest trainer of boxers that has ever existed. Literally, man, this scrawny dude, man, has trained every single one of these guys. I'll click the word. There we go. Yeah, he's trained every single one of these guys. And Freddie Roach is so good that they call him Master Roachy. Okay? Like literally, they're like, hey, he's the master. Like this is the guy that can craft you into the boxer that you want to be. A few of his statistics, Fred Roach actually they trained up 36 world champions. He's worked with Mike Tyson, Julio Cesar Chavez, James Toney, Virgil Hill. He's worked with a number of MMA fighters. He won the head training kind of champion award from 2003 all the way to 2010. He's already in the Hall of Fame. He's only 50 years old. He literally got the Lifetime Achievement Award. And this man is absolutely crazy. And he is the greatest trainer, you know, that's ever lived. I mean, all these guys are champions as a result. I know what you guys are thinking. Y'all want to see this guy in action, right? Hey, well, let's check out Freddie Roach in action. Let's see him training world champ Manny Pacquiao. Yeah, now Freddie Roach is a great coach. Like, if I wanted to become a good boxer, the last thing I would do is turn down an offer for Freddie Roach to train me. You know, the reality is, if he trains you, you have a good chance of becoming, you know, a world champion. You know, and as good as Freddie Roach is, you know, there's another trainer that wants to train us in spiritually. You know, for us to become the men and women that we were meant and designed to be. You know, there's a trainer, and his name is God. And God really wants to be, man, our trainer. And guess what? He's got a better track record than Freddie Roach and anybody else combined. Man, he's trained up man and woman year after year, man, to become the man or type of man and woman that God would use in this world. You know, you think about for me, when I stepped foot in college, I remember not having a spiritual background, not knowing too much about God, and I remember beginning to think about what it would look like for me to have a relationship with Christ. And I remember beginning to think about what it would look like for me to commit to actually spiritually growing. And I remember taking a step forward and just saying, hey, you know what? Like, whatever it costs, whatever it takes, man, I'm all in. Like, Freddie Roach, sign me up. I'm just going to do it, you know? And I hopped in, and I remember it was kind of like initially, like, all I could throw was like a left hook, you know what I'm saying? Like, all I could do was that. But then, man, God came in, and man, he put some people around me. Man, he put some resources around me. Man, he gave me, man, his word, and man, through prayer and through my relationship with him, man, he taught me how to throw a right hook. You know, and then a couple months later, like all of a sudden, man, I knew how to block, you know. And then all of a sudden, like, man, as time went on, I could dodge, you know, and the attacks that were coming at me. See, God, it really does want to train us. The only question is, are we going to commit to the training? Are we going to commit to growing spiritually? Are we going to commit to the painful discipline? Man, because it produces a harvest of righteousness for those who have been trained by it. Freddie Gross produces. But let me tell you what, God produces. He produces if you commit to his training. If you want to be a world champion, a follower of Christ, commit to God's training. But not only that, not only want a good return, we want to leave a legacy. We want to leave a legacy. You know, we want to leave something behind. You know, our legacy is something that we're remembered by. You know, it's what people think of when they think of us. You know, and every single one of us, you know, we want to leave a legacy. And I would say that a life that's committed to growing is the path to leaving the greatest legacy. You know, you think about what Jesus said in John chapter 15. He says, I am the vine, you are the branches. If you are made in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Cool promise, right? He says, hey, if you are made in me, if you commit to growing spiritually, you will bear much fruit. You know, you'll have a legacy. Man, that will bear fruit in the people around you, in your relationships, in your families one day. But then look what he says right after that. He says, apart from me, you can do nothing. You know, as much as you try to build a legacy on your own, if you don't commit to growing spiritually, it's going to amount to nothing. In Proverbs 13:9 describes it this way. It says, the light of the righteous shines brightly. You know, the light of the right, if you commit to growing spiritually, that light is going to shine, man, to the people around you. And people are going to recognize, man, this man is different. This woman is different. And this person is someone I look up to. I admire. Man, I can see Christ in that person. But then look what it says for those who are kind of on the fence. Man, I don't know about growing spiritually. It says this, but the lamp of the wicked will be snuffed out. Kind of rough, right? My dad actually, he smoked cigarettes, and I see him like snuff out, you know, a cigarette all the time, and I like look at that poor cigarette, he would throw it down. I'd be like, poor cigarette? You know, but that's what this verse is saying, is that, man, if I try to build a legacy on my own, if I try to build my own legacy, eventually, it'll get snuffed out. You know, and I even see this C.T. Studd, man, famous athlete, man, that lived and followed Christ for years. He said this, he said, only one life, it's a poem, only one life, it soon will be past. Only what's done for Christ will last. Only one life, it soon will be past. Only what's done for Christ will last. Man, if the righteous, man, it'll shine brightly, it'll last. But man, those who don't go all in, it'll get snuffed out. I don't think you believe me. I'm going to actually have some volunteers stand up. So I just want one random person in the room to stand up. Okay? Okay, right here. Cool. All right. So I'm just gonna ask you a question. All right. So, who was the 1996 Super Bowl champion? Exactly. Yeah, you can sit down. Thank you. No idea. All right. Okay, let's try another one. Maybe one other person stand up. All right, cool. Who was the CEO of the top Fortune 500 company in 1987? You got a clue? Okay. Oh, you go to sit down. All right. All right. Who? Give me one more. One more volunteer. Okay, great. All right, let's see. Who was the class president of this SGA for K-State 5 years ago? And why do I say that, right? Thanks for doing that, I appreciate it. You know. But why do I do that? And I want us to see is that, man, if I'm apart from Christ, and if I don't put Christ first, if I don't commit to spiritual growth, eventually, as time goes on, it'll get snuffed out. And no matter how good it is, no matter how much I achieve, no matter how much money I make, no matter how much recognition I have, eventually, it'll get snuffed out. But you know what doesn't get snuffed out? The lamp of the righteous. The righteous shine. And I will never forget the first time I saw somebody actually praying and talking to God and pouring out their hearts to God, not only praying for themselves, but praying for other people. I'll never forget the time I saw a guy sitting by himself reading the Bible. And I remember walking by his room and seeing him in there reading the Bible, and I was like, man, what is that? You know, I'll never forget that moment. And I'll never forget the first time, man, somebody actually explained to me how I can read the Bible on my own, personally. I'll never forget that moment. I was sitting behind Haymaker Hall. Never forget it. You know, man, the lamp of the righteous shines brightly. Man, the way of the wicked, eventually, you know, it'll get snuffed out. You know, and the other thing that's true about the lamp of the righteous is that, man, not only, man, there's a reality that, man, some people might not remember your name, man, as time goes on. That's definitely true. But the influence that you have in this world will last for eternity. You know, the Bible says the influence that you have on people spiritually, you know, will last for an eternity. The lamp of the righteous really does shine brightly. That's why we have to commit to spiritual growth. That's why we have to commit, man, to leaving a legacy that really does last. Only one life. The sin will be passed. Only what's done for Christ will last. And if we commit to it, the promise is that we'll bear much fruit. We'll bear much fruit. Fruit that will last. So we have to commit to growing spiritually because our time is short. We want a good return. We want to leave a legacy. But I want to welcome up somebody who has lived this out over the last few years, my boy Grant. He's going to make his way up here. He's just going to share a little bit of what this looked like for him. So give it up for my boy Grant as he gets up here.
What's up? Yeah, like said, my name's Grant. And yeah, so the past few years I have been trying to prioritize my spiritual growth, but it hasn't always been like that. So for me, I was actually super blessed. I actually had the opportunity to grow up in a super strong Christian household, grew up in the church, and man, that led me to, you know, grow up in Sunday school. And I felt like I know the right answers, I know what to say, and I felt like I was getting A+ in Sunday school, you know what I'm saying? But that led me to kind of give a false confidence, right? Like I felt like I was good and I knew enough and I knew what was right. But man, that led me to think that I was good. So I didn't really think that I needed to spend my time reading the Bible. Like I thought like Sundays were good. So that kind of led me to just do whatever everyone else was doing. You know, I just want to have a good time. I just wanted to do what felt right. And so that kind of described my life up until I actually met a guy who actually was doing what I knew was right. He was actually doing what the Bible said to do. And man, that like, kind of flipped my world upside down because I was like, yo, my life does not look like his. And that made me really curious. And so he was cool too. Like everyone respected him. He was funny. He was fun. Like everything that like everyone kind of wants to be, he was that, but he was also kind of doing what I knew was right. And I had never really seen someone balance those two. And so I started to kind of hang out with him, and he got to pour into me a little bit, and soon after that, I decided like, hey, I'm gonna commit my life to doing what he's doing. I'm gonna commit my life to growing my relationship with Christ. And so that has led me to say yes to a lot of things. Yes to a lot of good things and no to some bad things, right? But that's not saying like, oh, all I do now is read my Bible, because that would be pretty irrational, right? Like I still do some fun stuff. I still do good stuff. Like I still go out, play basketball with the guys, like that's good, right? Like I still go out and eat Taco Bell with the guys, like that's good. Those $5 craving box, that's good, right? Like it makes me stay up late with my friends to watch movies, like that's good. But like in turn, like committing myself to spiritual growth has made me sometimes say no to those good things and say yes to better things, which is like saying yes to SMC, which is why I went this winter break. Like it's an easy yes because I saw that as, hey, there's smart people out there that know way more about the Bible than I do. So why don't I just spend some time and learning from them? So that's the reason I went, and that's the reason why I do some of the things that I do. One of those things, and kind of a more practical thing that I do, like on a day-to-day basis, is just reading the Word. Like just open up the Bible and see what God has to kind of tell me what I should do with my life. And so, man, to paint the picture, like I live with 5 dudes in a house. We got a dog, you know, we're living it up. We're killing it in the nighttime. Like we're balling in the nighttime. We're eating that Taco Bell in the nighttime. We're just watching those movies in the nighttime, right? Like I feel like everyone just has no sleep schedule in college. And so, man, since my nighttime's taken, usually when I have to get in the Word is in the morning. And so, man, I'm in the basement, right? And it's cold. And it's only getting colder outside, y'all. Like, I would walk to school in a ski mask today, right? Like, it's cold, okay? But, you know, I'm waking up in the morning, it's cold, but it's also quiet and no one's up, right? And so that has been a perfect time for me to just sit down, start my day, just kind of soak up what the Word has to say for me. And so for me, personally, that has led to probably some of the greatest growth of my relationship with Christ that I've seen just so far, just doing the things that I've been doing. Another thing for me being like committing myself to spiritual growth has been, I feel like this one's pretty easy, but like going to church, right? Like I feel like everyone says that just go to church, but like, man, waking up on Sundays, I'm telling y'all, it's not always easy. Like I'm telling you, you guys don't have a sleep schedule. I don't have a sleep schedule. I'm getting like 4 hours of sleep and waking up that Sunday morning is not always easy. But when I say like I'm gonna commit myself to do this, it leads to action. So man, me waking up early is kind of calling in on that commitment. And so man, I'm waking up, I'm throwing on a flannel, I'm eating a granola bar, and I'm driving to church. But I'm telling y'all, sometimes, half the time, I'm picking up my boys and my friends, and I'm picking them up to go to church with me because I'm telling you, that's one of the most encouraging things to me, has been seeing other people around me being committed to the same things as me and making that same sacrifice of waking up early and wanting to grow in their relationship. And so that's been super helpful to me. Another encouragement to me has been Bible study, right? Like, I've been blessed to have a group of guys who wake up early with me. I don't know what's with this early morning thing, but everything's in the morning, y'all. I mean, we wake up early and we sit in this circle, and I'm telling you, everyone's eyes are like fluttering, and like we just all woke up 5 minutes before. I don't drink coffee, but if I did, this would be the time because I need a kickstart. But it's kind of cool because we're all waking up together and we're all like there. Like it's early in the morning, it's before classes, but we're all there together. And it's been cool to see and learn what other guys have been learning that week, but it's also helped me grow a lot because they hold me accountable to what I say I'm going to do and what I'm going to do with my commitment to grow. And it's been awesome to just see not only them grow, to see me grow, but man, it's cool to see other people doing it along with me. And so that's kind of been what it's looked like for me so far, and I'm just kind of excited to see what the future has in store to further growth opportunities. So I'm just going to welcome up Blake, and he's going to shut us down.
Beautiful. Amazing to see you being a prioritized guy committed to the process of growth. You know, and I think for every single one of us, you know, you kind of notice even in Grant's story, you know, there was a kind of moment, you know, for him where he was like, you know what, I'm just gonna decide to invest my life now. You know, I'm just gonna decide right now. You can call it a New Year's resolution, but I would say for every single one of us, and we can make this decision now, I'm just gonna decide right now to commit to spiritual growth. You know, I'm gonna say, hey, I'm drawing a line in the sand. I'm gonna commit to growing spiritually. You know, think about it. What kind of man or woman could you be, you know, 6 months from now if you commit to growing spiritually? You know, 6 months from now, you know, you're kind of leaving in May, you're going into whatever's next, you're going into your summer, and you're like, man, that was the closest I've ever been to God. And this is the closest I've ever been to God because I committed to growing spiritually. What if the spring of 2022 for you was that time? You committed. You said, hey, I'm all in. I'm going to do whatever it takes and to grow spiritually. New year, new you. Well, hey, I want to give us some steps on how we can invest in it. The first one is this, is just be a part of a Bible study. Grant mentioned it. But be a part of a Bible study. If you're not in one, there's going to be an opportunity to sign up for one. And please take advantage of that opportunity. And I would say not only be a part of a Bible study, but actively study the Bible, you know. Sometimes, you know, I can be a part of a Bible study, but I'm kind of showing up late. I'm kind of out of there, you know, in some ways. And I would say, man, commit to knowing the scriptures and to discussing it with people around you. There's something special happens when we read the scriptures and when we discuss it with people around us. And then the other one is just ask someone for help. Ask someone for help. Maybe it's somebody that came with you tonight. Maybe it's someone you know. But ask someone for help. You know, there's reality that with the New Year's resolutions, they're always easier if you kind of have somebody hold you accountable, right? You know, to going to the gym, you know, to eating right. Well, same thing should spiritually, man. It's so much easier if we invite somebody else in and say, hey, can you help me out with this? You know, can I do this along with you? Ask somebody for help. And the last one is this, is just take advantage of growth opportunities. You know, you heard us mention SMC, man, opportunities like this are great opportunities for growth and getting around people, man, who are growing their relationship with Christ, man, hearing the word taught. And I'm excited for the series that's coming up. Man, this One Life and Invest it. And I would just say, hey, come back. You know, come back and continue to learn what it's going to look like for you to invest your One Life deeply. I would also say another opportunity to grow that's going to get talked about a little bit later is 2.0. You know, take advantage of that opportunity as well as they announce that. Take advantage of opportunities to grow. You know, you think about this idea of one life. And it can be daunting, right? You know, you can kind of look at it and be like, man, dude, you're talking about my entire life. But I want us to dial it in, you know, just to the spring semester. And you think about the spring semester, you know, there's only so many days, you know, in spring semester, right? I mean, I want us to treat every single one of the days in the spring semester like a page of notebook, you know? And we kind of have the option, you know, we can draw whatever we want, you know, on each day. You know, it's like, and I can pick a day, you know, and kind of, you know, scribble on it, you know, it's like, I kind of woke up late, whatever, I kind of do my own thing, right? You know, we can draw this kind of day, but the reality is, man, as we talked about at the beginning, our time is short. And that's one day gone, right? If we're going to invest our life, we have to commit to growing spiritually. So man, just waking up and saying, hey, you know what, today, I'm going to make it about Christ. I'm going to prioritize Him. And I'm going to put Him first. I know it's hard. I'm going to make some painful decisions. It's painful now, but the discipline will produce something. I'll become something later on, right? Man, putting Christ first today. I'm going to go to that Bible study. Man, I'm going to ask that person for help. Man, I'm going to wake up and I'm just going to spend time with God in the Word, right? And then the next day, do the same thing, right? Say, you know what? Today, I'm going to follow Christ today. I'm going to put Him first today. Man, I'm going to learn what it looks like and obey Him on a day-by-day, moment-by-moment basis, right? I mean, you put those together, and then what you get is a picture of Christ in your life, and Him being in the absolute center of your life, and you growing and becoming the man or woman that you were designed to be, and one day after another. So you actually have a sticky notepad underneath your chair. Okay, so I want you to pick it up. And just to even give us a little bit of perspective. If you don't have one, some of these ladies have it here in the back. You can get one. Okay. That sticky note page represents your college career. And for some of us, you know, our college career is a little bit longer than others. You know, we have freshmen, you know, through seniors in here. And so if you're a senior, if you're a senior, I want you to take 3/4 of those pages and tear them off. Okay, just take your finger in there. All right, and estimate, just estimate. Don't have to be perfect, but take 3/4 of it off and tear it off. If you're a junior, take half of it and tear it off. Okay? If you're a sophomore, take 1/4 of it and tear it off. Okay? All right? Rip that thing off. I want you to think about your college career. You know, the time that you have left in college. I want you to think about the time that you have left at Kansas City State University. What kind of story are you going to write? Right? What kind of story are you going to write? You know, is it going to be a doodle? You know, is it going to be on my own terms, my own way? Is it going to be half in? Or is it going to be, hey, I was full committed? You know, you have an opportunity in front of you, man, this spring semester and for the rest of your time in college, man, to commit to growing spiritually one day at a time. So what I want you to do is I just want you to write one life. Take out your pen and write one life on it. Whatever page you're on, you want to look. Write one life. Put it somewhere where you can remember it. And we got one life, and it soon will pass. Only what's done for Christ will last. Let me pray for us. Father, thank you for the opportunity to know you. God, to be able to pursue you. God, for your pursuit of us. God, thank you that you did come and die for us on the cross and gave us an opportunity to have a new life. God, I know we only have one life. God, it really is short. God, we really do want to give a return. God, we really do want to leave a legacy. Would you help us, God, to commit to growing spiritually and every single day, God, for the rest of the time that we have on this earth. But even help us to hone in on this semester. Would this semester be the semester that we grow the most? That we take those steps, that we get outside our comfort zone and we say, hey, God, I trust you. I want to grow in my relationship with you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.